Welcome to our 36th meeting of the year. What a beautiful day outside, huh? So if y'all would please just stand and visit with the guests and fellow Rotarians for a few minutes, and then we'll ask you to return to your seat for the prayer and pledge. All right, if everybody would return to their seats. Hey, Doug Means. If everybody would return to their seats and stand, Eric HEITKAMP is going to lead us in prayer and pledge and song.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Okay. First of all, do we have any concerns today? You all are going to make it easy on me? That's good. That's a good thing. All right. Well, if you'll bow your heads and join me in prayer. Father, as we gather here in the harbor of your safety, we thank you for fellowship and family. We ask that you will strengthen us, restore us, and inspire us with your love. Lord, would you fill us with your peace so that we journey onwards? We would pour out your love and grace to others. We ask that our souls would catch the wind of your spirit so that we would take your promises to all the earth. Amen. Amen. And please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic our national anthem.
It's that time to express things we might be happy for. Happy bucks, Richard. Whoa. There you go. You got it.
All right, happy bucks. Okay, Susan.
Well, I am celebrating my birthday today, so that's my happy bucks, and I'm 73 years young.
Congratulations. And Mary.
All right, happy bucks. Our grandson, Beck Bishop, who lives in Shiner, Texas. He is a new Eagle, a huge accomplishment. And he's going to A&M in the engineering department.
I'm thankful for Alan and Jill and Tom and Van and everybody who's working on the 4th of July parade.
I'm thankful I've been in this doctorate program and I passed my preliminary exam. So forward and onward.
Okay, thank you.
I'm thankful for the 3 women who headed up all of our events last week, Kathleen, Susan, and Karen Ferris. They all did a terrific job.
I am thankful for my wife Stephanie. Today it's our 16th anniversary, and it's hard to believe. It seems like just yesterday our 14-year-old was taking over Philip's inaugural speech, presidential speech here at Maggiano's, so I still apologize. And it was our last day for Dads and Donuts for our 10-year-old, so time goes by fast, so it was a great day.
Great day.
Well, I'm thankful for a couple things. One is to see my good friend Barbara Clark here today. Woohoo! And then secondly, Kevin and I are heading out on Tuesday to Ireland for 2 weeks. Woohoo!
I am grateful because Marilyn Hargrave is home after a short stint in the hospital due to a little dehydration, but she's home and doing well, so I'm grateful for that.
Any others? At this time, it's time to introduce guests. So if you're a guest, please stand and be introduced.
I'm going to let this gentleman. I'm going to let this gentleman introduce himself. He's a Rotarian from Las Vegas and a past district governor.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm past district governor from District 5080. That covers eastern Washington, northern Idaho, and southeastern British Columbia. It's an international district. I was district governor in 2011, 2012. And I'm also a good friend of Kathy Allred, who is not here, and she's on a cruise, your district conference cruise. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce my daughter, who is here. She lives in Frisco, whereas I come from Las Vegas. I come from club, which is 100 years old. We celebrated the centennial just a couple weeks ago, and our club is about 150 people. It's a very active club, probably like your club. Thank you.
Thank you.
Introduce my aforementioned husband, Kevin. He joined me here today, a big sports fan, so looking forward to today's speaker.
Hi, I'd like to introduce Doreen Piellucci. She happens to be the mother of our speaker, and she told me that the happiest day was when her son, Mike, was born, and if she didn't think that could get any better, it got better every single day. So, wow. Sorry, I've got one more over here. This is Aileen Jimenez, and she is a member of the D Magazine editorial team. She's one of Mike's co-workers and also a co-worker of mine, and just a lovely, fantastic lady. So.
Boomer Sooner. Danielle Reynolds, a former football player at Oklahoma. She was featured in our 20 under 40 section earlier this year. She's works at Whitley Penn, doing accounting, and serves such causes as Capital for Kids, Lemonade Day of Greater Dallas, and other things. So.
Yes, I'm pleased to introduce a visiting Rotarian, Rebecca Pointer, who is incoming president of the Richardson Club.
Yes, thank you. And I think you're the perfect Rotary because you can shop and go to Rotary all in the same visit.
What's that?
And I'd like to introduce my friend Tanya Perez. Her husband, Jose, is at a men's Bible retreat this weekend, or he'd be here. And so Tanya and Jose are part of the Perez team with Caldwell Apex, Banker Apex, and she's phenomenal. And they live, their core value is relationships, and they truly live our principles of service above self. She was here last Saturday at North Texas Food Bank serving with us. So say hello to Tanya.
Please help me welcome Daniel Voigt. He is with Comerica here. He is a VP and a relationship manager. And Daniel's wife, Paige, and I volunteer on the advisory council at the Salvation Army. So Daniel is interested in serving and came over for lunch. So welcome.
Thanks for all the guests, and for those of you who are not Rotarians, we would love for you to consider joining our club. All right, next up would be Eric Harrison highlighting this week's Marketplace Advertiser.
Thank you, President Jeff. Good afternoon. Our marketplace sponsor today is Advanced ER. They are located in the Park Cities and Galleria area. Advanced ER has two of the closest freestanding emergency room centers in the Dallas area to Uptown, Highland Park, and University Park. Advanced ER provides urgent, emergent care in dedicated medical facilities outside of traditional hospital-based ER. We treat a broad scope of medical conditions, and currently our facilities are some of the best and most luxurious in Dallas. Team physicians and professional staff members are always at your service regardless of the time of day. When looking for an emergency room near me or near you, Make Advanced ER your first choice for Dallas ER. We provide much more care than your standard after-hours urgent medical clinic with on-site labs, pharmacy, and imaging. We can handle your condition. Advanced ER is open 24/7 to provide exceptional medical assistance to Dallas residents. Thank you, Advanced ER, and Michelle for your sponsorship today.
Next up is Kathleen KLAVITER.
Hello, everybody. I'm here to talk about Ronald McDonald House, our monthly service project for over 20 years. Somebody help me figure out how many years that is, but it's been over 20. We monthly provide dinner on the third Monday of the month to the residents of Ronald McDonald House, downtown Dallas. And well, yes, and their families. The kids that are there, the reason that they're there is for their kids who are from all over the world, all over the country. They can house up to 80 families now. It's like a mini hotel. And if you're not familiar with the service, there are different organizations like ours that provide a breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24/7. So the way we do it is we have a local restaurant provide the entree, and then the team, your fellow Rotarians that come in each month, provide the lunch, the vegetables, the salad, the dessert, the bread, etc. Well, we had a turn down with the pandemic, and a lot of the restaurants haven't come back, and we've had a hard time supplying the entree. And I've been going to different restaurants, and although the restaurants are coming back, not enough to provide 50 meals to us. So I did find Banditos. It was a great family-owned restaurant in Snyder Plaza that we have probably all eaten at. It's just a great local place. You were going to walk in there and see your neighbors. They love their beefy, cheesy, greasy enchiladas, and they have lots of Texas beers, and their margarita is really good. But you can go for whatever reason you want. But I have $50 gift certificates from them that they donated. They couldn't do the meal, but they gave us a $50 gift certificate. So I'm up here to raise money for our entree and raffle off the gift certificate. So what we're going to do is have an all-inclusive raffle where we'll start with everybody participating, but I'm going to need some spotters. Philip, if you will help spot on the side here, and let me see. Sergio, will you help and stand here and spot on this side for me, because I won't see all the hands that'll go up, but we'll start this out with everybody raising your hand, because I'm going to start with $5, and I know everybody in this room is willing to donate $5, right? No. You're good for it. Oh, and listen, dear guests, you can just sit there and enjoy the fun. I'm only leaning on the Rotarians, so don't worry about that. But everybody else, you're willing to do at least $5. Get that hand up there so Sergio can see it. And then we're going to go to $10 and keep that hand up there. And then I want you to go to $20. We're going to raffle off this $50 gift certificate for $20, okay? And then who's willing to keep their hand up for $30? We're going to keep that hand up for $30, and at this point, you take the other hand and put it under the elbow to keep it up, okay? And if anything, that's a guest role right there that you can help the person, the Rotarian next to you, to keep their hand up in the air as we go to $40. $40, we're going to give a $50 gift certificate. Huh? Okay, so $50, and we're going to go to $60. And, okay, we're going to go to $70. Oh boy, we're going to have food this month. All right, we're going to have $75. We're going to have $80. We're going to have $85. We're going to have $90. We're going to have $95. We're going to go to $100. Okay, guess what? I've got 2 cards. There you go. Thank you very much, and we're going to have Ronald McDonald excellent dinner this month because of y'all. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys, for your support. Lee Waggoner.
Okay, I'm going to be quick, but I want y'all to know that this week, Laurie Aldridge got an email from a fellow Rotarian. This Rotarian lives in Novi Sad, Serbia. This person, she was inquiring about our lunch next week at the North Texas Food Bank. I kid you not. She read our hub and the homepage of our thing, and she wanted to come to that lunch next week. Now, her plans changed. She's going to still be in Las Vegas. Her business plans changed. However, all of you all can come out to this lunch next week. It's the same price as it always is here. It's $20. But you do have to go online and pay. If you don't go online and pay, you're not going to have a box lunch from Jason's Deli. Jason's Deli, it's sandwich, chips, it's fruit, fresh fruit, cookie, the whole deal. But you want to come out there. Tricia Cunningham is going to be our program. She's going to speak. I think Jeff's going to show up, but she's going to speak at, that was supposed to be a joke, Jeff. Anyway, and give us a tour later. If anybody hasn't been back there, I suggest highly that you not go stop at the refrigerated area. Go on back to the freezer, see what it's like at a 0 temperature while you're still in Dallas. But anyway, so go online. There's about 5 places online you can do this. Pay $20 and you're in next week and you'll have a box lunch sitting there, okay? 1145 North Texas Food Bank. You'll look up the address.
All right, so speaking of the link, we've received emails about this, so if you'll sign up today, the links you have received will work. Tomorrow that link won't work. Dennis Harrison is our back office guy, and they're doing a refresh to our webpage. And so we will have a new link, and we'll get out another email. So please sign up today. If not, don't use the email link. You'll be able to do it on the website. It's supposed to be new and improved. Hadn't seen it yet, but I'm excited for that. Speaking of the hub, when I got in the parking lot, I was walking up, and I noticed someone up ahead of me, and I just wanted to take a minute to say a big thanks for Betty Dawson for all she does for us. All right, so a couple weeks ago, you remember we gave a check to Challenge Air, and they had their big event at Mesquite Airport, and she sent us, and our foundation supported this event. And so we got a quick video that she shot, and I just want to play it real quick.
So we just finished the pilot briefing in the hangar, just finished the volunteer briefing, airplanes lined up, getting everybody ready, and all we got to do is it's just a matter of time before our VIPs show up here in Mesquite, Texas. So stay tuned.
who weren't at the meeting a few months ago when she presented, basically what Challenge Air does, it's kind of like Make-A-Wish. It's for less fortunate kids or disabled kids, and they've never been on a plane. It's their opportunity to go up in a private plane, and while they're up there, they actually get to fly the plane. So it's a really cool event, and we sponsored that, and just wanted to share that with you all. Okay, so you received an email for nominations for club awards. It's really important that we get your input for that. So please look at, pull those up and supply those to Karen or Fred, whoever's on the email. I think it was Karen. But it's real important that we get your input on that. Speaking of changing website, it's that time of the year. May 1st is around the corner, and dues will be going out, the invoices. The rates did not go up for the individuals. They did for the large corporation, small corporation. So be looking for that as well. All right, so reminder, on May 18th, we got a bourbon tasting at Total Wine. On Friday the 23rd is our awards installation banquet, and June 30th we will not be meeting because of the 4th of July. So it's that time for our raffle drawing. So Kathy Wall. Well, 6462 were the last four numbers. So as a reminder, this money is being raised for our foundation, and since she's our winner today, she'll have the opportunity to draw from this remaining deck of cards. And if she draws the ace of spades, she wins half the pie. If she doesn't, she gets to keep the card as a souvenir. Oh, 10 of spades. She's got a souvenir. Thank everybody for participating. I think we're probably over $1,000 now. At this time, I'd like to ask Pat Martin to come up and introduce today's speaker.
Hey, everybody. Pat Martin. I'm the publisher of People Newspapers, for those of you that don't know me. Look, I don't know much about sports. I confess, I stopped paying much attention when my son quit playing soccer, soccer and wrestling 20 years ago in high school. So, oh, sorry. I don't really watch much football unless it's the Niners. I was expecting boos. I'm from San Francisco, so that's legit. That's my excuse for loving the Niners. But this guy, our speaker today, Mike Piellucci, better known as the Looch, knows a lot about sports. I call him Mike. Honestly, I didn't know he was called the Looch until I started researching what to say for this intro. I know Mike as a kind, friendly, generous, always a smile on his face coworker, and apparently an amazing son. So Mike joined our sister publication. For those of you that don't know, we are co-owned by the owners of D Magazine, the Allison family. So Mike started at D Magazine back in July of 2021 and promptly launched Strong Side. If you haven't read that, that's a blog on the D Magazine website. It's terrific. He's a former staffer at The Athletic and Vice, and his freelance work has been featured in the New York Times, Sports Illustrated, Los Angeles Magazine, and The Ringer. He's a Dallas native, went to Jesuit, went on to college at University of Southern California. He loves Star Wars and Jimmy Cash. Johnny Cash. Where did I get that? I like Johnny Cash too, so I don't know where I got that. Please welcome a really great guy that happens to be an excellent sports writer.
this guy up for a little bit, but I'm kind of loud anyways. So is this good for everybody? Do we need it higher? Alrighty. So thank you so much, Pat, for the introduction. You already know my name. I am a sports editor at D Magazine. Fun fact, there had never been a sports editor at D Magazine prior to me. We are going to be around for 50 years next year. It's going to be a big moment. We haven't figured out how we're going to celebrate it yet, but when you come to a place like this, you kind of have to figure out what you're doing, because I, like a lot of you, have read the magazine almost my entire life. I'd been a fan of the magazine. I had freelanced for the magazine well before they put me on staff last year, and when you come to a place like that, and they've done everything but sports, and the bar is so high, you have to find ways to fit in. And what that means, I should probably take my notes at this point, guys. This is a little bit off the cuff sort of situation here. But what that means can be a lot of different things. You know, if you read our sports coverage, if you haven't, if you just go to D Magazine's homepage, you'll see a little tab that says sports. You can kind of check it out. But we're a sports town, right? That's the biggest thing. And I told Dee and Christine Allison, who's our owner, when I was coming here, I said, look, why not sports? Because this is a sports city. You know, whether you read the Morning News, the Star-Telegram, whether you read The Athletic now as sort of the more new media version of this, how do you stand out when everybody's doing this sort of thing? And there are a number of ways we could go about it, and I don't want to turn this into an infomercial for what we do, but really at the core of it, and what we're going to talk about today, is storytelling. It sounds simple, but it's hard to do, and it's hard to do at the level that we've done it as a publication around town for half a century now. And what that means in particular, part of why I suspect I'm here today, is if you see these magazines on your table, very handsome man named Clayton Kershaw is on our cover. That's my story for the month. I feel like we have a video. I apologize in advance for how awkward I am in video, but you only have to see me for like 10 seconds, and then the rest you'll just hear about what this story is. How's it going? Mike Piellucci, your sports editor here at D Magazine, coming to you because our April issue, Big Sports Story, it's about Clayton Kershaw. If you know baseball, you know who this man is. One of the best pitchers of all time, maybe the best athlete to ever come out of Dallas. He's been an institution with the Los Angeles Dodgers for years, and he doesn't do a lot of press, but he did it with us. You read this story, you're gonna learn a whole bunch about his career, about where he's going next, about how much longer he might be pitching. He's 35 years old, might not be going that much longer, about whether he might come to the Texas Rangers. So baseball fans, you're covered. If you're not a baseball fan, guess what? You're covered too, because the story is a lot bigger than baseball. This is about two people, Clayton and his wife Ellen, who we met and fell in love with at Highland Park High School, who are figuring out what's next in their lives. You know, they've gone through this entire journey together, and now for the first time they have to wonder, what's next in our lives? Two really remarkable people, do a lot for the community here in Dallas, do a lot for the community outside of Dallas, and they've been Dallas people their whole lives. They're gonna be Dallas people their whole lives. These are Dallas folks through and through, which of course makes it a D-Magazine story, right? So if you love baseball, you're gonna love this. If you don't love baseball, that's cool too. I bet you will love these people. Either way, pick up a copy of newsstands, click the link in the bio, however you need to get it, get it. It's gonna be worth your time, I promise. So I've been told I've not been speaking into the microphone enough, so we're gonna try it this way. So that right there is kind of the quintessential D Magazine sports story. You know, we do a lot of sports online, we do some of it in print, not a lot of it necessarily is on the cover, but the reason this is, as you heard from the video, if you're already a sports fan, and certainly if you're a Park Cities person, chances are you know who this guy is, but you don't have to be. And that's, I think, the core of what we do at D is about. That if I'm doing my job right, if my staff and people that I work with is doing our jobs right, that, yeah, there's the daily sports coverage, right? Last night I wrote about the Cowboys' first-round draft pick. Tonight I got to write about the Dallas Stars. You probably have to care about those topics to come and see what we do. But for Clayton Kershaw, if you have no idea who this guy is, you're going to enjoy that story because he's part of this community. That was one of the first things that attracted me to this piece, was that I knew, I think when people think, what is a Dallas athlete? We think of Dak Prescott. We think of Luka Doncic. We think of Dirk Nowitzki. Clayton Kershaw is a Dallas athlete. Clayton Kershaw lives in the Park Cities, still lives in University Park, has always maintained throughout his entire life a Dallas address, right? Even when he first got drafted by the Dodgers, he had a condo, I think somewhere downtown, before him and his wife got married and got a house. That's a Dallas athlete. He just works in Los Angeles. And that is someone who is in the Park Cities more days a year than he's not in the Park Cities. So for us, it's important to tell those stories, not just because, yeah, look, if you're in my line of work and Clayton Kershaw's people reach out to you and say, do you want to do something with Clayton Kershaw? And that is how this happened. I wish there was a cooler story, but it is literally somebody said, do you want to do something with Clayton Kershaw? And I took about a millisecond and said, yes, I would like that in my life. The fact of the matter is that we're doing it because he's here and he's around here. And what I loved about this story is that the real through line of the piece is, so Clayton Kershaw's 35 years old. He has accomplished everything you could ever want to accomplish in baseball. He is, without exaggeration, one of the best pitchers of the last half century, maybe all time, best pitcher of his generation. But at his core, you know, I'm a year older than him. You know, I went to Jesuit, he went to Highland Park. I know people who played against him. We're not that different in that he's like any other guy who's a young man in his life, his wife, family, and he's got to figure out what is next because he can't physically pitch forever, and frankly, I don't think he wants to pitch forever. I think he's kind of looking at that finish line of, am I still happy doing this? But I've got 4 little guys at home, so what do I do? And that really became the through line of the piece, was that it wasn't just about Clayton. And we put Clayton on the cover in no small part because Ellen, his wife, you know, didn't necessarily want to be doing the cover shoot and everything like that. I think she's a little more, you know, didn't necessarily want that for herself. But it's really a story about a marriage. It's really a story about 2 people who have been together since they were 14 years old when they met in the hallways of Highland Park High School. And how do you figure out what's next in your life together? And that's what this is about. And I think if you read this sort of piece, you'll come away with an appreciation of, yeah, he's a guy who's exceptionally gifted at what he does. And what he does is something we venerate very much as a society, right? But at his core, this is a guy with a wife and kids who needs to figure out what the next phase of his life is looking like. And that was a really fun piece to take on because you don't get many opportunities with someone like this. And so how do you weave in, if you're here for the baseball, how do you weave in the subject of, is he going to pitch for the Rangers someday, which is an actual consideration for him. But also weaving that through, if you don't care about this baseball team, well, I bet, how do I get you to like this guy? And how do I get you to, you know, learn about who he is and invest in his journey? So that's obviously a big piece of what we do. Let's say the next slide. Another piece we've done, bet you all recognize this guy. So Dale Hansen, as we all know, retired a year ago. Or really a year and a half ago, gosh, it's 2023. His last broadcast was in 21. The very first story that we put on the site the day we launched is that, which is I was with Dale Hansen for his last broadcast. I did not know Dale Hansen before this. I got Dale's number. I knew people who knew Dale. I knew who Dale was. And it's a little daunting when you're sitting there going, okay, I'm going to ask this man to let a total stranger follow him around at his house all day, all night, through the capstone of the most legendary broadcasting career in the city, you know, one of the most legendary sportscasting careers in the country. So I was a little nervous about this one until my boss, Tim Rogers, who's our EIC at D, he just looked at me and he laughed and he said, of course he's going to say yes. And I said, well, why, Tim? Why? And he said, because Dale loves people talking about Dale. And sure enough, and I joke because, one, Dale and I have become friendly since this story, but 2, Dale will tell you the same thing. And that's the best part of Dale, is that Dale can't be anything but who he is. He does not understand how to be anything else, for better or for worse. So sure enough, I call Dale Hansen up and I say, can I come with you? And he's like, yeah, sure, come on by. You know, so so I'm over at his house a week beforehand, and we're chatting for hours, and, you know, he's texting me later. He's like, hey, what do you want to come by last day? I'm like, I don't want to be a jerk. Can I be there? You know, if you're leaving for the station at 8-ish, it's okay if I come around 3? Yeah, sure, that's fine. Here's the gate code. Come on in. So this story is one of my favorites I've ever done. And the reason is that there were a lot of stories about Dale at the end. Just there's been a lot of stories about Dale throughout the years. And part of the challenge, what we do in any line of work, but especially here, is that, you know, if you're doing the D Magazine story on Dale Hansen, you better bring it. You better bring something nobody else has. You got to make it the destination story. And we did that in a way where I think Dale gets a lot of the credit, because Dale doesn't hide his flaws. He doesn't hide his faults. And I had heard, you know, when I was at The Athletic, for those who don't know, The Athletic is essentially a new media website. It's now owned by the New York Times, but basically it kind of just tried to be an online newspaper at first for every city or sports region in the country. Now it's kind of become more of a national operation, but it, in about 4 years, had 1 million subscribers. Now that's, you know, I left in 21. I bet that number is probably closer to 1.5. So really big sports site. And when I was there, one of my writers did a piece on Dale, because if you're in the sports media circuit in Dallas, it was always reliable that you know, every few years, let's do something on Dale. You can always do something on Dale. And he had told my writer, you know, just when they were chatting, not for the story, about the regrets that he had in his life, about this career, this immense thing that he has done, this legacy that will live on that is bigger than him. but what it took to do that and what the costs were. And when I went in this conversation with him, I didn't necessarily set out to ask. It's more a matter of, you know, all I ever tell anybody when I do this is I want to tell an honest story about who you are at this point in your life. And I hoped, and this is where it led, that where you're at in this point in your life includes taking stock of a lot of things that are bigger than just the achievements. And so if you read this story, you know, it's a doozy. It's 5,500 words. It's a long one. But if you read this story, probably the first third of it is everything that you expect the Dale story to be for a guy going into retirement. It's a story that, frankly, a lot of other places did, which is the riding off into the sunset, and, you know, it's been a great ride, and here are the memories, and here are the jokes. And then it gets a little bit more real, and it gets into the fear of when you are in your spotlight your entire life, and when you feed off of that, when you kind of need it to a point, what does your life look like afterwards? Because this is a guy who, you know, he did, I'm sure all you guys remember, he was a speaker for 20 years for Dallas Can, right? That was Dale's thing for a long time. He had Tex Schramm, the legendary Cowboys guy, come speak at an event. And he remembered, you know, I remember him telling me that when he saw Tex, and Tex at the height of his career was this big, boisterous, you know, tough guy. And he was just so much softer and smaller and almost kind of diminished. And Dale worried, you know, is that because he's not in the action anymore? Is that because he's not with the Cowboys? Is that me? Is that my future? What do I do? Am I, you know, at one point he said, he's like, you're not going to be calling me in 2 years. The ticket isn't going to call me in 2 years. And so I call him to make sure that he knows that I do call him. But, and, you know, I do, when I'm done here, I'm going to text him and tell him I was talking about him, and he's going to get all excited about that, and we're probably going to go up and smoke cigars in a couple weeks. But it's this, that's what the story is really about. That's what I think, you know, Pat will attest to this. When you do what we do, and Aileen knows, and William knows, like, what's the story really about? And then we peeled a layer further, and by the end of this story, Dale Hansen is talking about how he has failed his children, how he thinks he has failed his wife, how he has regretted so many of the choices he's made in exchange for what he has done in the business, not intentionally. You know, this is someone who, there are so many stories about Dale Hansen's financial generosity, and a lot of those stories he does not want people to know, right? For a guy who loves attention, does not want to talk about that. But by the end of this piece, he's really opening up. And then the kicker for me that really kicked me in the gut was, you know, we're talking about all these things and all these regrets and these raw emotions, and he said, if I had to do it all again and I couldn't change stuff, I'd do it, because that's how he's wired. That's who he is, and that's real. And that's where I think, it's why I love that story. It doesn't happen without Dale, without someone being insightful and vulnerable and generous and all of those things, and, you know, probably a little self-absorbed, which he'll cop to that one too. But it's what makes, I think, our work different, and it's really cool to work at a place like this because there's no demand for make it shorter or make it snappier. You know, if it's a good story, it's going to hold people's attention, and it's doing things the right way, and it's getting into the messy edits of every single line or word or sentence about a guy who is really authentic. Last slide. The last slide, speaking of authenticity, bet you guys know this one too. Jason Witten, one of the best Cowboys to ever play. And he's coaching now up in Argyle, which is past Denton, for those of you who are like me. Didn't really spend a whole lot of time in Argyle before I did this story. But I was really drawn to this story. He's been coaching high school ball for 2 years now. This will be his third year next year. And I was really drawn to this one because if you remember his first retirement, so he was riding with the Cowboys, he retired, he did broadcasting with ESPN on Monday Night Football. This was after Tony Romo retired. And it was very much a deal of, I think they're riding the Cowboy wave, right? You see Tony Romo, who is such a sensation right out of the gate as a broadcaster. So ESPN wants their answer to that. Well, Jason Witten, that's Tony's guy. They're buddies. Get Jason in the booth. The only problem is Jason was not very good in the broadcast booth. Just not his thing. Some people are built for it. Jason Witten's not built for it. So he goes back, he plays a year with the Raiders, he retires again, and he coaches high school football at a little private school way up, you know, in North Texas. And I wanted to do this story because my question was why? Why do you go from your first retirement as the most visible, public stage you could ever go to, and now it's not that you're hiding, but you're certainly not picking the most glamorous thing in the world. This is a guy, Jason Witten, you want to start coaching. He could start coaching in college. He could start coaching at somebody's staff at the NFL, but here he is coaching high school football at a little tiny private school that wasn't used to winning a lot of stuff. And what I found out, and this was, you know, this is one of the other challenges in our business. Sometimes you get a lot of time, like with Dale. Sometimes you don't get time. You know, with Jason, it was, I attended one group of media availability. I went to their homecoming football game where I got him for about 5 minutes after that. And the rest is just a lot of reporting and a lot of talking to people and trying to, researching in his past and conversations he's had before and figure out, can you get to the heart of this guy when this guy is just, he's a quiet dude. He doesn't want much attention for himself. But what I learned was that coaching high school football is kind of more authentic to anything Jason Witten has ever done in his life than his entire illustrious NFL career. This was someone who's from small town Tennessee who grew up, rough family life growing up. His father left. His grandfather took his mom and his brothers in. His grandfather was a legendary high school coach in Tennessee. Jason Witten was a very, played at the University of Tennessee, very good college player. We're the weekend of the NFL draft. Well, Jason Witten wasn't a first-round pick or a second-round pick. Figured maybe have a cup of coffee in the NFL. He figured he would always coach high school football. And so what I came to learn, and this is one of the other beauties of what I do, is you can go in thinking you know something, and you try not to, but sometimes you go in to think, I know where this may be going, and you realize you have no idea. And what I learned was that everything that I saw in Argyle, he's probably more comfortable with that than he ever was being one of the best tight ends to ever play football. And along the way, you kind of learn what he means to this community. You learn what it's like if you're a 14-year-old boy and your head coach is Jason Witten, not 50-year-old Jason Witten, but Jason Witten fresh off of playing in the NFL. That's an experience, right? And so all three of these stories really are kind of the sum total of what I'm trying to bring to D, but really it's rooted in the traditions of what we've always done, all the way up to our sister publications like DCEO, which is our business magazine, to what the People newspapers do, which is you just got to find good stories and you tell them well, and if you tell them well and you do it authentically, people are going to care, and it's a lot of fun to do for a living. Not the most financially stable thing to do for a living, but a lot of fun to do for a living. So that is my spiel, and I'm told we have questions or Q&A period, which I'm happy to answer. I think there's a program in which I included some of the fun blurbs from my whole journey throughout the career. So if anybody wants to ask about me sneaking into Tim Tebow's private baseball workout, or what intercollegiate meat judging is, or professional wrestling, we can talk about all of those things.
All right, we'll kick it off. I'll start, and then we'll move over to Jeff. But first of all, you nailed it on Kirsch. That was incredible. Anyone who lives in the area, we're fortunate. We have 4 kids who all line up with his 4, and you literally, during the off season and even sometimes during the normal season, you don't go a day without seeing them. He and Ellen make coffee every morning. The only time you'd ever know something's different about him is at Charlie's dodgeball birthday party last year. He stepped out there a little and he was picking off kids with in dodgeball. You're like, that guy's got an arm.
He jokes that he's not competitive. He thinks he's not competitive.
He's super competitive.
He thinks he's not competitive with things that are not baseball or ping pong, and nobody else, one of those lack of self-awareness moments, everybody else kind of laughs at that one. So.
But you guys nailed it. I was actually surprised online that a lot of people were negative, like, oh, you're talking about a guy who's stayed in his hometown, which happens to be the Park Cities, and you have your kind of typical Park Cities haters, which was kind of frustrating. But I guess the question was, there's so many topics. The thing I love about this area is I grew up in the Northeast, New York, Philadelphia, and it was you didn't talk to the athletes. The athletes had their own little world, their own little bubble. Here, they're everywhere. Literally, I was texting with Joe Pavelski this week. He got the head injury, and it was he's legitimately concerned about this is his second major concussion in 2 years. Roger Staubach comes out. We see him at every football game every week. These guys are all normal people. They live normal lives. I think that's one of the reasons they love Dallas. And there's so many different topics. We've got stories like the new HP lacrosse coach, who's the former Duke coach that a lot of people know about. Yeah. So there's crazy topics. So how do you come up with these topics? Are there certain things that are off limits? Is it, because it seems like what's great about what you guys do is it's less about the on-field and more about the person off the field. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many of those stories, from the Marty Turcos out there running the foundation money to Michael Young's. It just goes on and on with the sports.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's kind of a good problem to have, because there's so much more to do than what we have the bandwidth to do. Part of being at D is that we're kind of lean and mean. All of us, and our friends at this table can say the same thing. All of us are doing probably 2 or 3 different jobs within one job. And so in our case, covering sports, it's me, and we have a really incredible roster of writers, but it's all freelancers. So you kind of have to pick, what can I cover, what can they cover? But then in my case, it's, okay, well, if I'm running 2/3 of my job at least is just keeping this beast online moving in terms of what's on today's budget, what is going on about this thing in town, is this writer have what they need, have I edited that, are we good financially, does anybody upstairs need something, all these different questions. And then within that it's, well, what do I have time to write about, and what do I have bigger things to write about. And so, the last part first, there's nothing off limits. It's if there's a good angle, we're going to do it, and if it's fun, we're going to do it. I think so much of it is about differentiation. We want to do stories nobody else does. And some of it, a lot of the time, isn't just, Clayton Kershaw is as big as it gets, but the next thing that I'm doing, a big meaty feature for our July issue is about cricket. Because cricket, which is now the second biggest sport in the world, is coming to the United States. And the first season will be in this, will be in the summer in July. And what's unique about this is that there are 6 cities that are in this league, but cricket, you require really specific stadiums. There's only one of them built in one of these markets that is going to be high performance enough to host it, and it is in Grand Prairie. If you know where the old Air Hogs minor league ballpark is, right by the racetrack, they're turning that into a world-class cricket venue. So we are going to be the hub of basically the next big, probably the biggest American sporting experiment since Major League Soccer came here 30 years ago. Can cricket work in the United States? Because not only is this league starting here, it's based here, and for at least another year plus, none of these other cities, LA, San Francisco, DC, Seattle, New York, they don't have their own buildings. So all of it is happening here. Next year, the Cricket World Cup, which is going to be hosted in a few nations, one of them is going to be here. We're going to have World Cup cricket in Dallas. So that's one that I've worked places where they would say, well, there's no obvious tie-in, there's no one big sport to hook it to. Beauty of working here is it's just, we trusted to find an audience. One of my favorite things I did last year was it's a professional ultimate frisbee league, but in reality, because it's so new and it's so niche, everybody's got day jobs, right? Nobody's making a living playing ultimate frisbee. But I was drawn to this thing because I got an email, and you get a lot of PR emails that, a lot of times it doesn't apply to you. But I saw a PR email, and the owners of this sports team are an Asian American married couple. The husband is a neonatologist with an MBA. The wife is a PhD in counseling. They have 3 kids who are under 5 years old, named after Eastern European mathematicians. And I want to know who these people are, and I want to be friends with these people. And that's one that, I don't know if there's another outlet in town, and I don't know how many outlets there are in the country that would say, yeah, just do that. And sure enough, we did it, and it got an audience, and people are excited about it, because that's the beauty of our readership, is that people want to read, people want to learn. So it's for every Clayton story that we do, there's plenty more things off the beaten path that we're going to find. It's really just a matter of the time and the resources, because I have more stories that are percolating that I'm trying to work on than I can actually ever tackle at one point, and same goes for all of our crew. So it's a great problem to have. I'd much rather have that than, we don't have enough ideas to do this month, guys. What are we putting on the internet?
Hey, Mike, thanks for coming. Great talk. We'll have to have you come back sometime.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Like Dan said, we used to see Clayton Kershaw walking his kids, literally walking his kids to Higher Elementary in the Park City. So he's a neighborhood dad. Okay, I got a scoop for you. This is huge. You're going to want to jump on this. The National Championship of Pickleball, which, by the way, is the fastest growing sport in the world.
Oh, I know.
Is coming to Farmers Branch. Okay, I can hook you up.
Well, let's do it.
Okay, quick 3 topics. You can speak on any of them or none of them. Scotty Scheffler, are you going to profile him? He's huge, Masters champion, Park Cities. FIFA World Cup, is Dallas ready? And NIL, college football. What team are you watching? What's going to be the big story with NIL in college football?
Okay, we'll do all 3. Scotty Scheffler. Definitely want to. Half the battle is just you got to figure out who these people's people are. In the case of Clayton, I would never have known that this particular woman who really controls his PR was if I had looked up and said, oh, this is the firm he works with, I wouldn't have found her name. She has a normal Gmail address. Her name is Kim Miller. There's a lot of Kim Millers in the world who have a Gmail address, but she was the one who dropped it on us. But yeah, Scotty is one that I think makes a lot of sense because he's also from the Park Cities. If this is golf is his oyster right now. And I also think it's fun because, he's at a different stage of his life than what Clayton is, right? He's a young, married guy, doesn't have kids yet. So, yeah, that'd be a blast. World Cup, I think this country, it's, this isn't the cricket scenario where it's will this work here? This is a soccer nation, and even Major League Soccer, which isn't, on the level of the English Premier League or La Liga in Spain or anything like that. It's still a huge league in the world. It's obviously the youth presence isn't massive. So, yeah, I think I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't think it's been officially announced, but like I think we all assumed that like the final might be here. So, yeah, I don't see why we're not ready for it. This is a soccer city. You know, it's just I think what's fascinating is that people probably would know it more if FC Dallas had a bigger presence. And a lot of Major League Soccer's experience is a lot of these newer teams. They figured out how to market all these teams probably 15, 20 years in. And so these newer teams like LAFC or Seattle or Atlanta's a sports town that does not get behind its teams. But within the 2 years of Atlanta getting Major League Soccer, they're selling out a 70,000 seat stadium because they knew how to market it. They knew how to, how to handle it. And I feel like Dallas, because we were one of the earlier ones, it's been a little tougher sledding. But yeah, I think we're ready for that. And in terms of NIL, I think it's less about what than where it's going. I think we're in this weird gray area of what's legal and what's not legal. And it's so sprawling that the NCAA can't catch or enforce everything. So do you just at some point give up trying and say, pay them? Do you try to have a more rigid, model of enforcement? I mean, I went to USC and I was there when Reggie Bush was there. So I am intimately familiar with what the NCAA can do to a football program if it so chooses to do something. SMU, of course, right? That's yeah. Take it all full circle here. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody knows where this is going. I mean, I do think ultimately it's a good thing. The amount of revenue that these kids generate for these schools is mind-blowing. And for however much that we, it's easy to say, well, you get an education out of it. If you know how it really works, a lot of times you don't. Because you can't leave campus during the summer to do internships a lot of the time. Your schedule is entirely built around football activities. So there might be that class you want to take for a major, but if that's when football's happening, you're not taking that class for your major. And the academic demands of certain majors, well, football is your full-time job, and you just need to stay eligible, you might not do that, So a lot of the time what a lot of these schools do is kids are getting degrees, but what's the quality of the degree? And is the school really there to educate these kids or keep you eligible to win on Saturdays? So I think it's only fair that if that happens, they get paid. The question is, what is the model? And there needs to be transparency. Everybody needs to play on the same playing field. If it's everybody can pay directly through the school and directly through collectives that are more or less affiliated with it, then just announce that and let them do it. And if it's not, then figure out how to standardize it because, that's the only way to go about it. But how, it's the Wild West now. So how that actually happens, it's going to be a long time before we find out. You kicking me out?
I am kicking you out.
All right.
Oh, what happened? Hang on a second. No, I don't have a cup. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for being here today. A book will be placed in the Shan Elementary Library in your honor for being here today. All right? Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, real quick, we want to do a quick exchange of the flags. You bring your flag? A pen to present to me. Okay. Come on up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is a very special pin that I would like to present to your club president. As I can see, your club, highly accomplished club and very impressive. In order to do that, I would like to request my daughter to join me to help me present this pin quickly. This pin.
Come on, he wants you up here. Come on, come on.
My daughter lives in Frisco. Name is Sheetal Varghese. She's a great artist. This pin is from Zone 2526. When I was district governor-elect 2011, we came up with this pin with the title Transformers, transforming the lives of people locally and all over the world. And you cannot buy this pin. I have a few pins. So I would like to share one of those few pins to your club president